Daf Kuf Gimel Amid Aleph, the Mishnah towards the top. Zok the Mishnah, Chayschim Yabelas B'migdash. If there is a Yabelas, a wart on the animal, so that is considered a mum. And therefore, in order to be makar of the animal, that has to be removed first. As we mentioned earlier, we have a general principle that Ein Shvus B'migdash. Therefore, Chayschim Yabelas B'migdash, you can remove the wart in the base of Migdash, Avaloi B'nida, but not b'medina, not outside the base of Mikdash. B'kli kan v'kan also, but that's only if you're doing it not with a knife, not with an instrument. It's only if you're doing it by hand, for instance, or biting it, but with a kli, that would be considered an issa deraisa, and therefore, even in the base of Mikdash, it would be aser. Rashi explains that the removal of the abeles with a kli is an issa deraisa. What is the issa deraisa? It's geizes. Just like shearing the wool from the sheep is considered geizes, you're removing it here also. You're removing something that the growth from the animal, it's also geizes. We would have to say that this mission is going according to Rav Yehuda, who says a malach she'ein tzrich legufa is chai, because according to Rav Shimon, you don't have no purpose for the yabeles. It's a malach she'ein tzrich legufa, you'd be potter. The Rashash asks on Rashi that it would seem to be very difficult, because we find by Mila, for instance, we don't find that there's geizes by Mila. It's the Moitzi Dam, it's until Seshama. And therefore he wants to say over here would be the same thing. He wants to say that geizes doesn't really apply to something that, like a yabeles, like a wart. It applies to something like a wool which grows back, or nails which grow back. The malacha of shearing geizes is a tzemer. It applies to something which is like hair, wool which grows, you cut it and it grows back, but part of the skin, a part of the body, it would apply until neshama if you're being moitzi dam, but not geizes. Furthermore, he says, and that even according to Rabbi Yehuda, l'chayre, he says that this would not be chayev, because just like Taisus and Shabbos and Kalal Godel says on Daf Ayin Gimel, that if a person cuts the kaitzer, but he ain't a tzorach la'etzim. So Taisus says, if you can't, even according to Rabbi Yehuda, who says malach she'ein tzrich leguf is chayev, but you would not be chayev, because if you don't need the eitzim, it's not called kaitzer. It's not called kaitzer. The very definition of kaitzer is you're cutting something because you want the item that you're cutting. If you don't want the item you're cutting, it's not called kaitzer. Similarly, over here, it's not called geizes if you have no need for the item that you're cutting down. So therefore, he wants to say that the yisur is until seshama. I'll call upon him. We're talking where if you would do it with a kli, with an instrument, it would be a deraisa. So therefore, even in the base of Mikdash, you can't do it. So obviously, we're going over here not like Rabbi Lezer that says that machshira mitzvah deichen Shabbos. We're holding not like Rabbi Lezer. So therefore, if you do it by hand, if it's not with a kli where it's a derabanan, in the base of Mikdash, it's muter ein shvus b'mikdash. But in Medina, it's also. But bikli kan v'kan aser. Zok the Gemara very minu. I'll ask you a stira from the Mishnah im Psachim. Kei v'vava asa michus l'tchum v'chatichas yavelta ein doichen. It says the case over there in the Mishnah Psachim is talking where Yud Dalet Nisan falls out on Shabbos. The Hakrova, the Korban Pesach is doichen Shabbos, but these other things, the peripheral things, are not doichen Shabbos. So therefore, carrying it, bringing the animal, carrying it through the Rishus Harabim, or Avasim Chosl, bringing it outside the Tchum, or cutting off the abeles is not Deichen Shabbos. Rabbi Lezer, Aimer Deichen, Rabbi Lezer says it is Deichen. But we see the Tanakhama that says it's not Deichen, ain't Deichen. It seems to be a steer to our Mishnah. Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Yezvi Chanina, they both give terutzim. Achad Amar, one says Hava Havalach. That both Mishnais are talking where the abeles is moist, it's not dried out. So if you did it with a kli, it would be deichen Shabbos. V'loi kasha kan biyad, kan b'kli. And the chilek is whether he's doing it biyad. In our Mishnah, he's doing it by hand, so it's an isser Rabbanan that's in question, and therefore it's mutter the Mikdash ain't supposed to be Mikdash. And Kan V'Kli, the Mishnah Pesachim is talking by doing it with an instrument, for instance a knife, which it would be an Isser Deraisa, and therefore even in the Mikdash, it's also. And the other one says that both cases we're talking where he did Biyat, not with the Kli. So there's no Isser Deraisa involved. The Mishnah in Pesachim is talking where it's lach, it's moist, it's part of the animal. Therefore, theoretically, there could be a deraisa. If he did it with a kli, it would be a deraisa. Our Mishnah in Eruvin is talking where it's dry, and therefore there is no deraisa involved. Therefore, it's mutter, because it can't come to a deraisa. Nevertheless, our Mishnah, as Tosfos explains, nevertheless, our Mishnah holds that even though it's talking about biyavesha, it's only muter biyad. But if it would be bekli, it would be also. Why would it be also bekli? Ain't shvus b'mikdash, but that would be considered. He holds a shvus godel. Since you're doing it with an instrument, it could easily come to a deraisa. So as we mentioned before, even though generally speaking we have a klal of ein shvus b'mikdash, but in certain cases there are exceptions, and therefore he holds that this case would be considered a shvus godol, a major shvus, and therefore b'kli, it would be also even b'mikdash b'kli. That's the way he understands it. Now, the one who gives a teretz, the distinction is with the yad and the kli. My time, why doesn't he give the chilek of lach and yavesha? Amar lach, he says yavesha of him the kli nami shori. He says no, because you can't say our Mishnah is talking about yavesha, because even if it be a kli, it would also be mutter. My time of frucha yifrach, it just disintegrates, it breaks apart. Meaning, it's not considered, in such a case, we would not consider, the way Tosfos explains, we would not consider the shvus godel, and even bekli would be mutter, because it just disintegrates. So it's not something that we would consider shvus godel that would easily come to a deraisa, and therefore, it can't be talking about yavesha, because then even bekli would be mutter. Therefore, he learns that he has to be talking that both cases is balacha. My time my why doesn't he give this chiluk of yad and kli? Amar lach, he says bekli. If you're talking about bekli, the Mishnah Pesachim, you're saying about kli, hatanan bekli v'kan also. What would be the point of it? What would be the purpose? Our Mishnah already says that the sefer of our Mishnah already says that if it's bekli kan v'kan also, it's also both in the Medina and in the Mikdash. Why would it have to be repeated in the Mishnah Pesachim? V'idach, and the other one holds no, there would be a purpose for it, because Hadik Tani Hasam, the reason it mentions in Pesachim, Mishum de Kaboye Flugi Rabbi Lezer Rabbanan, because he wants to tell you that Machlekes Rabbi Lezer Rabbanan, that Rabbi Lezer holds that it's mutter even bekli. V'idach, and the other one says no, we can't say that it's talking about a kli, because dumya derkeva vosim mechus l'tchum ktani the rabbanan, because in the same categories it says the chatichas yavelis, it also says bringing it outside, bringing it through the rishus harabim, and bringing it outside the tchum. And those cases are isur d'rabbanan. Why are they isur d'rabbanan? Because they're assuming we're going that like Rav Nosson that says chai noisin is asma, and even by an animal, it's considered to be like the animal's assisting in the carrying, so there's no isur deraisa, and tchumar d'rabbanan. So we see the context of the other cases the rabbanan. So here also we must be talking about that it is a rabbanan, and therefore it's done biyad and not bekli. The another one says no, it's not a riot, because Harkeva the like Rabbi Nosson, because I'll tell you maybe those other cases are derisive cases. In the cases of carrying it, I'll tell you that we're not going like Rabbi Nosson. We won't say Chai Noises Asma. Then we say the like Rabbi Nosson Damar Chai Noises Asma, and therefore it's considered to be carrying, and it's a derisive. And Havasim Echos L'Tchum Kirabei Kiva Damar Tchum derisive, and by a Tchum we could be going like the sheet of Rabbi Kiva, which says Tchum deraisa. So we have no right. We could be talking in that context of Isuri deraisa. Maser Rav Yosef, as he says, no, you can't say this chiluk. Most of Rav Yosef, he says, Amar Rabbi Lezer says, Kal v'chayim. Uma shchita she mishum malacha deichas Shabbos. Rabbi Lezer says the continuation over in the Mishnah Pesachim says as follows. Rabbi Lezer says Kal v'chayim. Uma shchita she mishum malacha deichas Shabbos. Shechting the korban pesach if your dalet falls out on Shabbos, the shchita which is a malacha deraisa is deichas Shabbos. So therefore, if we say it by a deraisa, these other cases, the carrying, the tchum, and the aveles, then certainly it should be Deicha Shabbos. So what do we see from here? We see clearly that the cases and the Mishnah Psachim, including Yabeles, are talking about a Derabanan. Rabbi Lezer says, if Shchita, which is a deraisa, is Deicha Shabbos, certainly these things are Deicha Shabbos. So you see, we're talking about a Rabbana, not a deraisa. So we cannot be talking over there that it's Bekli, it's Lacha Bekli. And therefore, Rav Yosef, as the Rishonim speak out, and Rav Yosef also rejects the other teretz because he holds that if it's our Mishnah is talking where it's dry, even Bekli would not be a Shvus Gadol, and there would be no reason to answer it even even with a Kli in the Mikdash. Therefore, Elamar Rav Yosef says a different teretz. He says, Ha v'ha biyat. In both cases, in our Mishnah, Mishnah Psachim, we're talking, it's done by hand. If it's done by hand, why in the Mishnah Psachim is the removal of the avelis not Deicha Shabbos? Ushvus Mikdash b'Mikdash yitiru. Ushvus Mikdash b'Medina lo yitiru. They were matir the Shvus Mikdash in the Mikdash. They were matir in the Mikdash. So therefore, our Mishnah, which is talking about where in the base of Mikdash he has to remove the abelis to be makravit, so it's not a mum, you're doich. But over there, by the Korban Pesach, the inspection of the Korban Pesach was done outside the base of Mikdash. Each person brought his animal for his own Korban Pesach, for his personal Korban Pesach. So that was done over there. It was done outside. The inspection was done outside the base of Mikdash. We're not matir ashvus b'Mikdash outside the Mikdash. Yosef Abaye v'Kamala Shmaitza Eser Asafel Abaye asked a kasha. So he asked the following kasha from the Mishnah Yakir b'Sefer Ali Skupa. If one was reading from a sefer from Kisvei Kodesh on a skupa. Now we're assuming at this point that the threshold, the skupa or the porch, was a reshus hayachid. It was gavoy yud and it was dalet al dalet, and in front of it was a street. Binisgalgal sefer miyadoi, and one end of the sefer of the Megillah rolled off and it rolled down into the reshus harabim. Now, rolling it back and bringing it back to him is not a deraisa because he's holding it in one hand. And the item is not completely in the reshus harabim. He's not removing it completely and bringing it to reshus hayachid. But nevertheless, there is a makam for a gzeira because if it fell from his hand into the street, and he might come to pick it up, and he'd come picking it up from the reshus harabim to reshus hayachid. Nevertheless, it says he can roll it himself. Now we're assuming over here also that the Kisvei Kodesh has the same din as Shus B'Mikdash, that it's considered to be Kodesh, and therefore we would not make a gzera when it comes to the cover of the Kisvei Kodesh and the design of it. We would not make a gzera. So therefore, over here apparently there's a makam to make the gzera, and nevertheless there is a makam to make the gzera, and nevertheless we don't. So what do we see over here? Now here we're not talking in the base of Mikdash. We're talking outside the base of Mikdash. And it's the equivalent of a Shus to Mikdash. It's talking about the covenant of Kisvei Kodesh. And there is a makam, a reason to make a Zera. And we're not guys that it might fall and you might come and bring it to him. Where it says, what's your kasha from here? Didn't we? Is that sign the case? The case over there, the eskupa is not the way you're assuming it. It's not an eskupa of a reshus hayachid. The case over there is talking by the threshold is a Carmelis. It's not Gavoya Yud. It's less than Yud Tvachim high. And there's a Rishus HaRabim that passes in front of him. They came in the Igda Biyora Filashus Navileka. Since he's holding onto it in one end, so he's not considered rolling it from the Rishusim to the Carmelis. And there's not even a Malkum to make a Gzeir, because even if it did fall from his hand to the street and he would forget and come to pick it up and bring it, it wouldn't be a deraisa. It would be carrying from the Rishus HaRabim to a Carmelis. So there's no Malkum for a Gzeir over here. So it's not because of Ein Shvus B'Migdash, B'Medina, because there's not a Malkum for Gzeir. That's not why we're not Geyser. I'll ask you another kasha. We can put the oven, lower the Korban Pesach into the oven right before Shabbos, and then it roasts and through the night, and then in the nighttime he can eat the Korban Pesach. Now, normally we have a Gzeir D'Rabbanan that we do not allow you to put items in the oven or the stove to be cooked or roasted right before Shabbos. It has to have enough time that Kadesh Yatsulami B'Yayim. It has to be already roasted, at least to a level of Machal Ben Drasoy. It has to be roasted before Shabbos. Now, there's a Gzeir D'Rabbanan, you can't put things right in the oven right before Shabbos. And over here, we allow you to put the Korban Pesach in right before Shabbos. Now, this is a Shvus Mikdash B'Medina. It takes place outside the Beis HaMikdash. Over here, they're roasting it not in the Beis HaMikdash. And we don't apply the normal Gzeira. The reason that normally we're Geyser, that you have to put it before and Kadesh Yatsulami B'Yayim, because otherwise we're afraid that he'll come and stoke the coals. And he'll move the coals, stir the coals, and it'll cause them to be mavir, or machaba, to be mavir, to cause the fire, to ignite the fire. So over here, even though that Gzeira theoretically should apply, we're not Geyser Shemi Echat B'Gecholim. And don't you see, therefore, that Ein Shvus B'Migdash, even B'Medina? Ishtek, he didn't answer. He also, the comment of Rav Yosef, when Abai came before Rav Yosef, Amar Le Hach, Amar Le Rav Safra, he said, this is what Rav Safra said to me. Amar Le, and Rav Yosef asked Abai, he said, my time, Eloi Tishanalei, B'nei Chabur is reason name. Why didn't you answer that? No, really, normally I'll tell you that Shvus B'Migdash, B'Medina, we are Geyser. But the reason that we weren't Geyser in this case is B'nei Chabura's reason that they're very diligent. And even though normally we are concerned that a person Shemi Echat B'Gecholim, but in this case, the B'nei Chabura are very diligent, and for them, we're not concerned. Abai, who did not give this answer, he said, Kohanim's reason, hey, Amrin. We have the principle that Kohanim are his reason. That's their avoida, that's their achrayas, they are very diligent. But B'nei Chabur's reason, lo Amrin, but we don't have a klal that B'nei Chabur are his reason, that we don't say. So therefore, he did not offer this teretz, and he held it was a kasha that you see that over here, you see that Ein Shvus B'Mikdash, even B'Medina, so we can't give this chilek and answer the Mishnah, our Mishnah and the Mishnah in Psachim in the manner that he answered it.